The Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a landscape of breathtaking beauty and unimaginable brutality. It is a place the world often forgets, but where war is a constant companion. Here, in the green hills of North Kivu, a resurgent M23 rebel force, armed with sophisticated weapons and backed by powerful neighbors, is on the march. Standing in their way is a United Nations force. At the very tip of that spear, holding the line, is a small, hardened contingent of South African soldiers. They are outnumbered, often outgunned, and thousands of kilometers from home. This is the reality for the modern South African National Defense Force, a military corps between a heroic past and a deeply challenging present. It possesses some of the most respected special forces on the planet and a legacy of creating world-beating technology. Yet, it is a force stretched to its absolute limit. This is the story of a double-edged sword, a military forged to be a hammer of apartheid, reborn as a shield of democracy, and now facing a battle for its own future. Can a lion, starved by years of neglect, still command the respect of the continent? The DNA of the modern SANDF was coded in isolation and conflict. Under the global condemnation of apartheid, the old South African Defense Force, the SANDF, was a pariah state's military. For over 2 decades, it was embroiled in the brutal South African border war, a sprawling conflict against Namibian insurgents and the Angolan army, backed by tens of thousands of Cuban troops. This war became a high-intensity laboratory. Facing a UN arms embargo, the SANDF could not buy weapons, so it built them. Engineers at corporations like Armscor and Denel, given a blank check, sparked a golden age of military innovation. They created the Casper, the V-hulled armored vehicle that became the blueprint for every modern MRAP used in Iraq and Afghanistan. They built the G5 howitzer, an artillery piece so advanced it outranged anything in the arsenals of NATO or the Warsaw Pact. They created the Ratel, the world's first wheeled infantry fighting vehicle, combining speed, range, and firepower for the unique conditions of southern Africa. This was the sharp edge of the sword, a technologically superior, battle-hardened, and brutally effective military machine. But this was a sword in service of an unjustifiable cause. Its primary enemies were the liberation movements fighting for a free South Africa. Then, in 1994, the political miracle happened. The world watched in disbelief as the SANDF was tasked with the impossible, integrating with its sworn enemies. The professional, white-led South African Defense Force had to merge with the guerrilla soldiers of the African National Congress and the Azanian People's Liberation Army (APLA). It was a process fraught with mistrust and cultural clashes. How do you build trust between men who, months before, were trying to kill each other? It was one of the most ambitious military integration projects in modern history. But from it, a new force was born, the South African National Defense Force. It was smaller, more diverse, and had a new mission: to defend the constitution of a democratic rainbow nation, a symbol of unity. It was a monumental achievement, but also marked the beginning of a new, complex identity crisis. Today, the SANDF's arsenal is a paradox, a collection of world-class designs battling the realities of time and money. The South African Air Force crown jewel is the Denel Ruvalk. One of only a handful of true attack helicopters designed outside the US and Russia, it proved its devastating worth in the Congo. But the South African National Defense Force has only 11. Maintenance and a broken supply chain mean that on any given day, only a handful are flyable. Its squadron of SAB Gripen fighters are superb, but severe budget cuts have meant pilots can't get enough flight hours to maintain peak combat readiness, a crisis that has been publicly acknowledged. The ground forces are a living museum of the border war's genius. The G6 Rhino artillery system still commands global respect for its range and accuracy. The Ruicat armored car, a high-speed tank hunter, is perfectly suited for African conditions. But these platforms are now over 30 years old. The once mighty Oliphant tank fleet is largely in deep storage, and the iconic Ratel, after 40 years of service, is only now slowly being replaced. Patrolling a coastline of nearly 3,000 kilometers that bridges 2 oceans is the South African Navy. Its 4 German-built Valor-class frigates and 3 Heroine-class submarines are modern and capable. But with such a vast area to cover, this small fleet is stretched impossibly thin. A daunting challenge for a force tasked with protecting some of the most vital sea lanes in the world. But one part of the legacy has not rusted. While the hardware may age, the quality of its elite soldiers remains undisputed. The South African Special Forces, the Riki, are still considered among the best in the world, forged in a selection process so brutal that it has changed little since the border war. These operators are the nation's strategic asset. They are the quiet professionals deployed to Mozambique to hunt insurgents. They are the first called for the most dangerous hostage rescue and counter-terrorism missions. The Rekis are the living embodiment of the South African National Defence Force's latent power. They are proof that even when the body of the military is struggling, its heart, the warrior spirit, is still beating strong. The demands on this strained force are immense. The South African National Defence Force is tasked with 3 monumental jobs. First, defending the nation's borders against smuggling and illegal crossings. Second, deploying as Africa's continental firefighter from the grinding, high-intensity mission in the DRC to counter-insurgency patrols in Mozambique. And third, acting as the nation's last line of defense at home. During the catastrophic KwaZulu-Natal floods and the violent civil unrest of 2021, it was the army that was deployed to provide aid, protect infrastructure, and restore calm. No other institution in the country is asked to do so much with so little. It is a force constantly on deployment, constantly under pressure, holding a fragile peace both at home and abroad. And so, the South African National Defence Force stands at a crossroads. It is a military of profound contradictions. A force with a legacy of world-class innovation that struggles to maintain its aging fleet. A force with some of the toughest soldiers on Earth, stretched thin across fighting Africa's toughest wars.